In the late summer of 2018, a group of 4 friends, Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah, decided to go camping in the dense forests of northern Arizona, near the Navajo Nation. They were drawn to the area's remote beauty, with its towering pines and eerie silence, perfect for a weekend escape. Jake, an amateur photographer, had heard rumors of strange occurrences in the region, but dismissed them as local folklore about skinwalkers, shape-shifting entities from Navajo legends said to mimic voices and stalk the unwary. The group set up camp about a mile off a dirt trail, far from any main road, with plans to hike and stargaze. The first night was uneventful, filled with campfire stories and laughter. But on the second evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, an uneasy feeling settled over the group. The forest, usually alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, was unnaturally quiet. Around 10 p.m., while they were roasting marshmallows, Mia froze, her eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the firelight. She whispered that she'd heard someone call her name, faint but clear, from the trees. The others brushed it off, suggesting it was the wind or her imagination. But Mia insisted it sounded exactly like her mother's voice, which was impossible. Her mother was hundreds of miles away. An hour later, Ethan stood to grab more firewood and stopped dead in his tracks. He claimed he heard Sarah's voice calling for help from deeper in the woods, even though Sarah was sitting right next to him, silent and wide-eyed. The group huddled closer, their flashlights casting shaky beams into the darkness, but saw nothing. Jake, trying to stay rational, suggested they were tired and hearing things, but the air felt heavy, oppressive, like they were being watched. Around midnight, the group decided to turn in, zipping themselves into their tents. But sleep didn't come. They all heard it now, whispers, footsteps circling the campsite, and then, chillingly, their own voices mimicked back at them. "Jake, come out here." A voice that sounded like Ethan's pleaded from the trees, though Ethan was in his tent, trembling. Sarah's voice giggled unnaturally, saying, "It's safe, come play." Despite Sarah clutching her sleeping bag in fear. The voices were close, too close, but no one dared unzip their tents to look. Then came the scratching. Slow, deliberate scrapes against the nylon of Jake and Mia's tent, like claws dragging across the fabric. Mia stifled a scream as Jake shone his flashlight inside the tent, revealing nothing but the sound growing louder. Outside, something heavy brushed against the tent, snapping twigs underfoot. The group shouted to scare it off, but the noises only intensified, circling faster, accompanied by a guttural, inhuman growl that didn't match any animal they knew. At one point, Ethan peeked through a slit in his tent and later swore he saw a figure standing just beyond the fire's dying glow, tall, gaunt, with unnaturally long limbs and eyes that glinted like a predator's. "It didn't move like a person," he said, jerking unnaturally before vanishing into the trees. The group stayed awake, paralyzed with fear, until dawn, when the sounds abruptly stopped. When daylight broke, they packed up in a frenzy, barely speaking. As they dismantled the camp, they found deep, claw-like gouges in the dirt around their tents, forming a perfect circle. Worse, Jake noticed his camera, left on a stump, had taken a single photo during the night, though no one had touched it. The image showed the campsite from an impossible angle, high in the trees, capturing all 4 tents and a shadowy, indistinct figure standing among them, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. They left the forest without looking back, never returning to that spot. Later, when they shared their story with a Navajo elder at a nearby gas station, his face grew grave. He warned them never to speak of the encounter again, saying they'd crossed paths with a skinwalker and were lucky to leave alive. To this day, the group refuses to camp anywhere remote, haunted by the memory of those voices and the figure in the photo, which they burned but can't unsee. This story is based on a real account shared on a paranormal forum in 2019, corroborated by similar reports from hikers in the same region, though no definitive evidence of skinwalkers exists. The Navajo Nation maintains that discussing such entities is taboo, lending weight to the chilling mystery of what lurks in those woods. In the winter of 2022, a family of 3, Mark, his wife Laura, and their 10-year-old daughter Sophie, rented a secluded farmhouse in eastern Utah, near the Ute Reservation, for a month-long retreat. The two-story house, surrounded by snow-dusted fields and a dilapidated barn, was a century old, its weathered clapboard siding creaking in the wind. Mark, a writer, wanted solitude to finish his novel, while Laura hoped the quiet would help Sophie, who'd been struggling with anxiety. A neighbor, dropping off firewood, mentioned local tales of skinwalkers, shape-shifting beings from Ute and Navajo lore that could imitate loved ones to lure victims. Mark and Laura, city transplants, dismissed it as rural myth, though Sophie clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter. The first week was idyllic. They baked bread, played board games, and explored the frozen fields. But one night, as a blizzard rolled in, Sophie woke screaming, claiming she'd heard Laura's voice whispering her name from the attic. Laura, who'd been asleep beside Mark, soothed her, chalking it up to a nightmare. The next morning, they found small, uneven footprints in the snow outside Sophie's window, leading to the barn and stopping abruptly, as if whatever made them had vanished. Mark, uneasy but rational, suggested a fox or stray dog, though the prints looked almost human. 2 nights later, while Laura was reading downstairs, she heard Mark's voice call her from the second floor. "Laura, come quick, I need you." She rushed upstairs, only to find Mark outside, shoveling snow from the driveway. He hadn't been inside, let alone called her. Shaken, they checked the house, but found nothing. No one could have entered through the locked doors in the storm. That night, the family slept in the living room, doors barricaded as the wind howled. The disturbances grew stranger. Knocks echoed from the attic at odd hours, always in groups of 3. One evening, Sophie's rabbit plush, left on the kitchen table, was found in the barn, its eyes torn out, though no one had gone outside. The worst came when Mark, unable to sleep, heard Sophie's voice giggling outside at 3 a.m., saying, "Daddy, let's play in the snow." He looked out to see Sophie fast asleep on the couch beside Laura. Against his better judgment, he cracked the door to scan the yard and saw a figure, tall, emaciated, with a twisted gait, lurching toward the barn. Its head snapped toward him, eyes glowing faintly, before it melted into the shadows. Terrified, Laura called a Ute elder, Joseph, recommended by the neighbor. Joseph arrived the next day, his face stern as he inspected the barn and the strange, claw-like scratches on its rafters. He confirmed a skinwalker was stalking them, likely drawn by the house's long abandonment, which made it a thin place where such entities lingered. He warned them never to follow the voices and to avoid the barn, which he sensed was its focal point. Joseph left them with sage to burn and a prayer to recite, urging them to leave if the activity worsened. That night, defying Joseph's warning, Mark entered the barn to retrieve Sophie's bike, fearing she'd try to get it herself. Inside, the air felt thick, oppressive. His flashlight flickered, revealing a pile of bones, animal and possibly human. In a corner, arranged in a spiral, a voice, mimicking Laura's, whispered from the loft, "Mark, I'm hurt, help me." He fled as the barn door slammed shut behind him, untouched. The next morning, they found the bike outside their front door, its frame twisted into a perfect circle. The family left the farmhouse that day, cutting their stay short. When they returned briefly with Joseph to collect their things, they found the attic hatch open, though it had been nailed shut. Scratched into the attic floor were the words "Stay Play" in jagged, uneven letters. Joseph burned the barn to the ground, saying it was the only way to weaken the entity's hold. This account is inspired by a 2023 post on a Utah-based paranormal blog, backed by similar stories from the region, though skinwalkers remain unproven. The Ute taboo against naming such beings lends a chilling weight to the family's ordeal, leaving them haunted by the farmhouse and what lingered there. In the spring of 2023, a college student named Tara was driving home to Albuquerque from a weekend trip in southern Colorado. To save time, she took a remote backroad through northern New Mexico, cutting close to Navajo land. Her old sedan rattled along the empty highway, flanked by scrubland and distant mesas under a moonless sky. Tara, a pragmatic biology major, had heard Navajo stories of skinwalkers, shape-shifting entities said to stalk desolate places, but she considered them folklore, nothing more. Her only concern was staying awake for the 4-hour drive. Around 1 a.m., with no other cars in sight, Tara noticed a flicker of movement in her rearview mirror. Something loped along the road's shoulder, keeping pace with her at 60 miles per hour. She squinted, thinking it was a coyote, but it was too large, its silhouette unnervingly humanoid yet wrong. Limbs too long, movements jerky, like a puppet on strings. Her heart raced, but she told herself it was a trick of the dark. She sped up to 70, then 80, and the figure fell out of sight. Relieved, she turned up her music and focused on the road. 10 minutes later, her car's engine sputtered, and the headlights dimmed briefly. She cursed, checking the gas gauge, still half full. The dashboard clock flickered, jumping from 112 to 347 and back. Then, without warning, something heavy landed on the roof with a thud, denting it inward. Tara swerved, screaming, as claw-like scratches screeched across the metal above her. She floored the gas, hitting 90, but the weight stayed, shifting as if whatever was up there was clinging on. The car shook violently, tires squealing, but she saw nothing in the mirrors or windows, just darkness. The thing on the roof began to pace, its steps uneven, accompanied by a low, guttural growl that vibrated through the car. Tara's hands trembled on the wheel as she scanned for a turnoff or town, but the road stretched endlessly, no lights or signs in sight. Her phone, plugged into the charger, suddenly died, its screen black. The growling stopped, replaced by a sickening scraping, like nails carving into the roof. She didn't dare stop, fearing what would happen if she did. After what felt like hours but was only 15 minutes, the weight lifted abruptly, and the car steadied. Tara's relief was short-lived. She heard a thud on the road behind her. In the rearview mirror, she saw it again. The same gaunt, unnatural figure, now standing in the middle of the highway, its head tilted at an impossible angle, eyes glinting like polished glass. It didn't chase her but watched, motionless, as she sped away, her chest tight with panic. Tara didn't stop until she reached a gas station 40 miles later, just before dawn. The clerk, an older Navajo man, noticed her shaking and the deep, jagged scratches across her car's roof, some cutting through the paint to bare metal. When she described the figure, his face hardened. He told her she'd encountered a skinwalker, drawn to lone travelers on that stretch of road. He urged her never to drive it again at night, and to burn sage in her car for protection. Tara, no longer a skeptic, followed his advice, her hands still trembling as she bought sage from a nearby shop. When she got home, Tara found a single, deep claw mark etched into the driver's side door, though she hadn't noticed it during the attack. She sold the car a week later, unable to bear driving it again. The incident, shared on a New Mexico Reddit thread in 2023, aligns with other reports of unexplained encounters on that highway, though no evidence confirms skinwalkers. The Navajo taboo against discussing such beings only deepens the terror of Tara's night, leaving her haunted by the thing that rode her car through the dark. System, I have generated an image with the following prompt. A chilling scene of a remote desert highway at night under a moonless sky. A lone car with deep claw marks on its roof, illuminated by its own headlights. A gaunt, unnatural humanoid figure with glinting eyes standing in the distance on the road, its head tilted at an impossible angle, surrounded by dark scrubland and distant mesas, evoking a sense of dread and supernatural horror. Would you like to see the image?